So, hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux Community Podcast. So, it is the 20th of October. It's a Friday, as every time we are on this podcast. That makes sense, totally. Anyway, the first story we're covering today is Qualcomm adopting RISC-V for next generation Snapdragon, the next generation Snapdragon Wear platform. So later on, we'll cover the headline story, the one in the YouTube title, BT turning E into the flagship brand for UK consumers. But we'll get onto all of that interesting news later. So this is the first story, an interesting development when it comes to RISC-V. So Qualcomm has announced that it's adopting RISC-V for the next generation Wear platform. So apparently the RISC-V ISA is getting into Qualcomm-powered wearables. So for quite a bit now, people have been talking about RISC-V and the kind of open CPU, the kind of open CPU kind of architecture, but Qualcomm is actually implementing RISC-V here. So for quite a while, different companies have been talking about integrating RISC-V into products. But it appears that Qualcomm is actually going ahead here with their wearable chips. So this is an interesting development, especially when it comes to these wearables, because this move by Qualcomm could mean that a lot more wearable devices will get RISC-V chips. And who knows, maybe this could be the start of more tech products adopting RISC-V. I mean, for this small form factor, RISC-V, the RISC-V instruction set does make sense. But we'll just have to wait and see how this implementing RISC-V into their wearable platform goes. And yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts? Pigus?
No.
Okay, so let's continue on to the next story. So WhatsApp has announced that they are so WhatsApp is actually testing a new self-destructing voice messages feature. So previously, there's of course been the self-destructing text messages. However, this is a new feature, so you can send a voice message and it will disappear after you playing it. So you can have the view once feature with voice messages now. So this is a pretty cool feature if you're on WhatsApp, because of course you might not want people sharing whatever voice message you sent. And as long as you can trust the person listening to it, that they're not actually recording it with a microphone while it's being played back, then this is a fantastic feature. And of course, if you can trust that Meta isn't actually, if you can trust the end-to-end encryption on WhatsApp, then this is fantastic. But overall, if you want this feature, I guess it's cool. I mean, it's kind of a logical step, given that self-destructing messages have already been a thing when it comes to images and text messages on WhatsApp. But now, of course, bringing it to voice messages is just the kind of logical step forward. However, this is only currently in a beta release, and we're not exactly sure when this will be implemented in the main stable version of WhatsApp. do you guys have any thoughts? I know you guys aren't big WhatsApp users, but yeah.
Thank God modern smartphones don't have microphones. They just have a camera.
But yes, let's continue on to the iPhone news. So it's another week. It's another iOS update. So trying to fix another problem and then it not fixing a problem. So apparently, the iOS 17.1 update fixes the iPhone burn-in issue, but apparently not another bug. So apparently, this is another. There's apparently another bug that is hindering the iPhone 15. So apparently, it's a shutdown bug that means that it basically causes your device to turn off during the night, which can cancel alarms and notifications among other things. So this means...
Oh, God.
Yeah, this could cause a lot of problems, and apparently it hasn't been fixed. So it appears that Apple have already put out another, update with this new iOS update, but it hasn't fixed quite a big issue. So honestly, I think if Apple could just get it together and fix the major glaring issues on their new devices, then that would be fantastic. Or maybe just test it more before you launch it. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think
Turn it
Apple
off
will
and
ever
go
make
overnight.
it right.
Yeah. But yeah, if only they could just, test things. But yeah, yeah.
Why? That costs money.
Yeah. But I think this kind of stuff does cause a reputational hit, potentially. Although the kind of people who buy Apple products, there are a lot of people who buy Apple products who wouldn't just switch to Android just because there's one problem that exists. It's much... if you're in the Apple ecosystem, that one thing won't convince you to switch over. So yeah, I think Apple can get away with this kind of stuff, but with the vast majority of users, but it'll tick a few users off. But I think they can deal with that. Yeah.
Most Apple users could have the phone catch on fire in their pocket, lose a leg from it, and still buy another iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people really like that iPhone or think that Android phones are somehow inferior in some, regard to do with their elitism. But of course there is, Apple hardware is often their chips are quite good. That there is reasons to be using iPhones. However, these software bugs really don't encourage Android users to switch over to the iPhone. What do you think, Pierce? You were half saying something and I accidentally cut you off. Sorry about that one.
I don't remember what I said.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so continuing on to the next story. It's a story that we've already covered in another section, so we'll delete the Android section. Goodbye. That goes to the abyss. But why don't we cover... We covered the Android story already. It appears to be... Yeah, we did. So I'm just sending away the Android section for this week. Actually, I'll just keep it there. I'll just delete the story. But yeah, anyway, we're moving on to PC news now. So here's a bit of a story, not really typical to be covering in this show, but it's just a story to do with Nvidia and Jensen Huang. So apparently the CEO of Nvidia, that quite a few people know because he's been the CEO for a while, Jensen Wong has apparently took part in an interview, and in it, he apparently said that, quote, building NVIDIA turned out to be 1,000,000 times harder than I expected it to be. So apparently he said with 2020 vision of times gone by, many would so apparently basically he says that he would change some things, but NVIDIA is a resounding success, so it's not really a source of regret for the CEO, but if he did turn back the clock, he may not have started NVIDIA because of the pain and suffering that it has caused him, as well as embarrassment. But he says that he is enjoying himself immensely, and he thinks that adding a bit of value, and that's really the trick of an entrepreneur. So he's clearly reflecting on his career overall, and his time at NVIDIA, and NVIDIA overall. Do you guys have any thoughts on this story? It's more of a reflection from a CEO. I mean, I guess I wouldn't believe that he didn't want to start. Yeah. Why wouldn't he want to be CEO? Anyway, but...
Yeah. It's interesting how he thinks, though.
Yeah, it is. Because
Yeah.
it's not really that common for CEOs to say that kind of stuff, but... yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just spend too much time and thinks of it as wasted time.
Yeah. Then again, he's probably made so much money out of it. I mean,
Yeah, but money isn't everything, so.
Yeah. Anyway, continuing on to a story which I am going to be careful about. So Intel has withdrawn from the Web Summit following Israel remarks. So, according to this story, Intel and Siemens AG have withdrawn from the Web Summit Technology Conference in Europe following comments made by Paddy Cosgrave, the event organizer, who criticized Western nations for their support of Israel in the wake of Hamas attacks, according to Bloomberg. Apparently they've decided to withdraw Intel and Siemens AG without any real explanation. However, apparently Siemens say that that they've reviewed the ongoing situation and that they've decided to discontinue this partnership. So that's a bit more information than what Intel has given out. But overall, this is quite a few major withdrawals from this Web Summit. I'm not going to give any sort of views on what's going on when it comes to Israel and Palestine. But I'm not going to give any views on that front. But what do you guys want to say? I don't really feel like giving my opinion. This is a technology channel. This is not a world event
not to get you banned on YouTube,
or anything else.
I won't say much.
Overall, YouTube isn't the right forum. YouTube technology channel is not the right forum for this, I don't think. It's something that has happened. So now, moving on to the Linux distro releases. So why don't we cover the Ubuntu variants first? So a few have updated. So a few Ubuntu distros. So of course they're downstream from Ubuntu, and they've updated to 23.10. So they've brought through those changes. And I'm going to take a minute before I say all these distros. Okay, I'll say them now. Kubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu... why did I put Ubuntu Budgie twice? Okay, Edubuntu, Ubuntu Unity, Ubuntu Kylin, Lubuntu, Zubuntu, Ubuntu Cinnamon, Ubuntu Studio, and Voyager Live. So, those are some distros that have updated to the 23.10 release, often with not really that many updates aside from some distro specific stuff, mainly to do with like the desktop that they use and stuff. So those are some interesting distro releases. So if you're on those distros, then you'll probably want to update. So yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yay, new Ubuntu version.
And they're constant updating.
Yeah, there's so many Ubuntu-based distros, so all of them are trying to update to the new version. So we can't cover them individually, however, we can cover it as a general thing. I mean, we could cover it individually, but it would take ages. So let's not do that. Also, it'd be quite boring, given that most of them are just doing some nominal updates. But now moving on to the new BSD section. Yes, that's correct. I'm titling it BSD now. Which will only be used about, like, you know, barely ever used, given that there's not really that many BSD releases. But, why don't we cover the OpenBSD release? So OpenBSD 7.4 has been released with various kernel improvements, SMP improvements, VMM and VMD improvements, and I'll pretend to know what that means. But yes, there's a lot of improvements here, a lot of stuff quite specific to OpenBSD, although some more general stuff here. But yeah, there's a lot of updates on this page. Not exactly the easiest, most readable stuff. However, generally there have been a lot of updates here, so you can read through the notes. And if you are on OpenBSD 74 or 7.4, that's what I mean. Then if you're on OpenBSD, then you can update to this new 7.4 release. So make sure to head on over and check out the notes and see whether you want to update. What do you think, Pigus, about, you know, as the resident Linux user?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through the changes, and it's like just a bunch of package updates.
Yeah.
I don't think it's much to do like the user experience. I don't think that's much of a difference. So.
Yeah. And honestly, if there was stuff to do with the user experience in there, you probably wouldn't find it because it's so long. So yeah, honestly, if OpenBSD could just make this version and then maybe a more readable version, then maybe, you know, that would be great. But then again, it's not their user base.
To the graphics driver, so.
Yeah.
The direct rendering manager.
Okay. But yeah, it's not the user base, I don't think, wanting nice, kind of, some nice formatting or whatever. It's quite a minimalist thing, and quite a kind of, you know, it's a certain type of thing, so, yeah. Anyway, we're continuing on to the next thing. FreeBSD 14.0 Release Candidate 1 is now available. So in this kind of statement with the release notes and stuff, as well as a lot of other stuff in here. Yeah, so there's not really much to note about this release. Mainly some kind of nominal updates and package updates. But, of course, in this quite minimalist form, they present everything. So it's quite hard to look through the notes. But I couldn't really find anything of too much note when it comes to the updates here. But if you are interested in trying development releases of FreeBSD and you want to be a part of the development and feedback, and maybe just try out some, experimental FreeBSD distro stuff, then check it out, I guess. Do you have any thoughts, Biggest?
No, it just looks very similar to FreeBSD, or OpenBSD. I mean, just
yeah. I mean, FreeBSD is meant to be the more user-friendly one, but the notes, the notes aren't particularly friendly. Anyway.
No. I mean, there's a link to a better release note page, so.
Oh, okay. I did not see that, so we'll just have to go with this for now. Anyway, you can check that out in your own time, I guess, guys. If you want to check these notes, there's a lot of stuff in here, so yeah, you can check out the notes if you want to after the show. So, getting into the gaming news in more UK news, Virgin Media O2 customers apparently get early access to Tekken 8 closed beta codes. So, or if you're British, beta, or however you want to pronounce beta. Anyway, yeah, so apparently using O2 Priority, you can get access to some beta codes for Tekken 8. So Tekken 8 is the latest entry of the legendary fighting game franchise by Bandai Namco Entertainment. And apparently Virgin Media O2 can access this closed beta using the Priority app. So this is another perk on Priority. I did cover in a video, in a review, O2, and I talked a bit about the benefits and perks of O2, and I guess this is another one to add for a limited time between the 20th and the 23rd of October. You'll be able to get this early access. But of course, O2 have a lot of these perks. I mean, coverage-wise and speed-wise, they're not as good as EE. They don't exactly measure up in that respect. But when it comes to perks, O2 definitely do win out. And they do definitely have the best perks of any UK mobile network. And of course, if you're on Virgin Media, you can get all these different perks, just because O2 and Virgin Media are now one company. So, do you guys have any thoughts about being able to get this early access?
Just because it's cool.
Yes, well, if you're on, if you use Virgin Media, I mean, I use Virgin Media, so I could technically access this. But yeah, so I guess it's cool if you're using those providers, and yeah, it's such a limited time thing. There'll be no point in switching now just to get this. Yeah. But moving on from a cool piece of news to a, oh my, what piece of news? So Twitch now apparently has stories. So it's a strange idea. So apparently you can now upload stories on Twitch. You can clip stuff and make it into stories. So I'm guessing this relies on the VOD kind of past stream stuff. So apparently you'll be able to share short posts on your channel that expire after 48 hours. So, of course, for quite a long time, it's been Twitch's thing to have these kind of disappearing posts. Posts that, after a while, they will disappear from the platform. A kind of limited time thing, I guess. And that's also because Twitch, of course, don't want to be storing videos forever. But overall, it seems a bit daft, having even more stories, features. It seems like every social media has to have stories now. But I guess Twitch is just another name to add to the list of platforms with this quite popular feature. Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, how many users actually want to use this feature on Twitch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think that many users will be jumping to this.
Like,
It's not the demographic either, I don't think.
it feels like you're using Twitch to watch live streams.
Yeah. And also, it's like gaming. I don't think gamers... I don't know, but like most gamers don't really... I'm not imagining that many gamers are into the stories type stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it suits the demographic in any sort of shape or form. I guess young people or whatever.
Take a look at my depressing bowl of ramen.
Ramen? What?
Gamers eating ramen noodle.
Oh yes, ramen noodle.
What else would they come up with? Oh.
But anyway, let's continue on. Let's delete a section that... Why did I include... That's a previous note that I shouldn't have been in the notes. But why don't we continue on to broadband and cellular. A section on the show that we covered last week. And it will now be a permanent section on the show. So we'll be covering the stories when it comes to broadband in the UK as well as other countries, if there's any stories that I find when it comes to other countries, or if you guys send any stories when it comes to foreign broadband providers, I'll be happy to cover that, or mobile networks, of course. But right now, we've only got UK stories for this section, so why don't we just get into it? So, City Fibre has announced it is launching 1.2 gigabit fibre to the premises home broadband for UK ISPs. So this will basically mean that City Fibre will now actually be launching 1.2 gigabit broadband for UK ISPs to take advantage of, so you can then buy your broadband from whatever provider which uses City Fibre. So, of course, City Fibre have been trying to build something out like OpenReach to compete with OpenReach using a lot of VC money. But I think it's a pretty cool thing that they're trying to build out a new network of fibre to compete with the OpenReach monopoly, or at least maybe duopoly if you count Virgin. But OpenReach are the only real big provider historically that has provided open access to their broadband network. So it's cool to see another network actually spring up and provide actually competitive service, which is actually faster than most of OpenReach's service. So yeah, of course they are trying to sell this faster tier and of course, we'll have to wait and see where this rolls out and how fast it rolls out. But this is much faster than previous speeds. And of course, this could mean that City Fiber will be able to use this to kind of get an advantage over OpenReach, who are also trialing this 1.2 gigabit broadband. But of course, we'll just have to see how ISPs use this with this new infrastructure. What do you think, guys? I know neither of you are in the UK, so you might have limited thoughts on this matter. But I pulled the story in, so yeah. No thoughts. Oh, no. I
mean, I could think how the name could be used funnily. Oh.
Okay, I'm not gonna think about that too long. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for this show either. But yeah. So why don't we cover the main story, the main title story, and the kind of headline story for this week. So BT Group has announced it is turning EE into its flagship brand for UK consumers. So the telecoms giant BT, also known as British Telecom, back when that was the name, they announced that they are shaking up their branding once again, and they've announced that EE will over time become the flagship brand for consumer customers. So previously, of course, BT has acquired EE and integrated them into BT stores and integrated BT into EE stores, but now they've took it a step further, actually announcing that on the consumer-facing side, EE will be the main brand, but for enterprise and global units, BT will still be the flagship brand. So it's kind of sad to see the BT name go away a bit. So BT's been around for a very long time, ever since the days of state-owned telecom here in the UK. So of course, since it was privatized in the 1980s, BT has been a privately held firm. But of course, they've changed over the years to their modern form. However, it appears that they're now trying to go for a more modern brand with EE, and EE probably has a bit of a better name than BT when it comes to public image, so maybe it's from that front, because BT, of course, have the kind of reputation of being quite an old provider, and although it's the kind of main default provider, they have historically had a bit of a reputation for having poor service, so maybe they're trying to switch up the narrative a bit by using EE, which has a bit more of a better reputation, although of course it's not flawless, but a bit better than BT's current reputation. What do you guys think? I mean, Farmer Josh, have you heard of BT before? I'm guessing you have.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I've heard of British Telecom, but I mean, that's about it. That's all I've heard of it. Privatized back in the 80s, like you said. So, Didn't it used to be part of the General Post Office?
Yes, it did. It used to be a part of the Post Office, which is also now privatized, which is strange. Anyway, let's not get into post offices being privatized. So, getting on to... actually, Piggis, do you have any thoughts on this story?
No, I'm not listening. I'm trying to figure this out.
Figure what out?
The server stuff.
Oh, okay. So, continuing on to the next story. So Vodafone UK has announced that they are launching 2.2 gigabit home broadband in early 2024. So apparently they're going to be using City Fiber's fiber to the premises. So I know it's a bit of a mistake here. It says FTT. It should really be FTTP. However, you know, I guess they made this mistake on ISP Review when editing the article. But apparently, Vodafone has announced that they will be launching 2.2 gigabit, 2.5, hang on, 2.2 gigabit home broadband in early 2024 using City Fiber. So currently, 3 million premises have City Fiber, and they've been rolling out some pretty fast broadband and fiber to different places, mainly big cities. But this is a pretty big announcement by Vodafone. It's pretty bold, promising this 2.2 gigabit broadband. However, you know, there are similar tiers of broadband in some other countries, so it isn't that remarkable that they'll be doing this in big cities like you know, like London. However, it depends on how large this rollout is, how impressive this actually is. But yeah, do you guys have any thoughts?
I'm just waiting for you to slip up on City Fiber. So
I don't think. Let's continue on. So Free UK and Vodafone, continuing on from last week, have announced that they plan to not have any post-merger price rises. Now, I'm skeptical here because, of course, they're gonna say this, but long term, you always raise prices. So maybe if things get less competitive, prices will be, prices will rise. And of course, with all of the MVNOs relying on these two providers, reducing the space to only 3 providers, it will of course reduce competition and will pressure these MVNOs to raise prices if, of course, these networks start charging more for access to the network. But, of course, they're trying to convince people that this is a good move and trying to, more importantly, convince the UK regulator that this would be an okay move. And, of course, the CMA have got to, balance here between, stopping anti-competitive behaviour and promoting investment. So, overall, I hope this deal doesn't go through, personally. That's my opinion. Because I think it would reduce competition in the space, and I think it's quite dangerous, this reduction in the number of brands in the space and this consolidation of the industry. But those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Farmer Josh? If you have any.
It kind of sounds like it's going the same route the U.S. did, and areas where Ma Bell used to be around, it got split up, and then AT&T has bought back up a lot of that same infrastructure. So
yeah, that's the problem. I think just having 3 firms is just not enough when it comes to networks. There is the argument that it's better to have less networks in the sense of you can have wider coverage, but yeah. Anyway, continuing.
Where I'm at, AT&T is the only wireless service you can get, and I pay $75 a month for a cell phone. So.
Yeah. Anyway, continuing on to the miscellaneous news. I always have to say it like that. So yeah, sometimes I mix it up a bit, but it's the way that I say miscellaneous. So Slack is apparently retiring its status account on X. So the company says it wants to focus its resources on those most widely used by their consumers. So they've decided to retire this status account. So now status.slack.com will be the primary source of truth for all incident news. And I love how they phrase that. I mean, what a source of truth. I don't think there's any other truth except from the Slack status truth. Yes, of course.
Like a lie.
Yes, it could be a status lie. What if that happens? How will the world cope? Who knows? But of course, with these alerts, they will, of course, still provide them via RSS and Atom feeds. So that's probably the way that you should be using, that's the way that I would personally be getting these statuses. If you're reliant on finding out the status of Slack and getting these updates, then I guess it's a good time to be adopting RSS for your workflow. Personally, I'm a big fan of RSS, so, that's how I would use it personally, but of course you can still just go over to the website. What do you think, Piggith?
You said they had RSS?
Yeah, they said that alerts will also be available through RSS and Atom feeds linked at the bottom of the Slack status homepage.
That's great.
Yeah. Yes, honestly, if more companies did stuff like that, that would be great.
Because then all of those other status sites could just refer to that.
Yes. And then you could just create an RSS category on your reader just called statuses, and then you could get all that through. That'd be cool. Anyway, continuing on to another story on The Verge. So Brave browser has apparently been installing a VPN service on Windows, whether you want it or whether you don't. So apparently they've just been doing this without people's consent and doing it behind their back. So of course, Brave VPN is quite a big feature in the browser now. However, it is a paid feature when it comes to Firewall plus VPN. But of course, Brave historically haven't been the most transparent when it comes to installing things on people's computers. Installing this, all this different type of, stuff on their computers when it comes to crypto and now VPNs, I guess. So this is just another long thing in the long line of stuff that that Brave try and install on your computer, which isn't so transparent. So yeah, I think there was a Brave fork. I mean, of course there was the Descent fork by Gab, however they kind of stopped with that. And there was
like a fork called Braver.
Yes, and then that just went silent.
Yeah.
It was a weird Discord. Yeah. It was a weird Discord to be in. It was just like nothing. Were you in that Discord, Piggith?
No.
It was an amazing Discord. Nothing happened.
Reminds me of another Discord.
Oh, yes. I wonder which one. Anyway, continuing on. So, we're now covering some sad news. Library, but a long time coming. Library Incorporated is winding down. I had to say that in the longest time possible. So the news is that Library Incorporated is apparently winding down. So Jeremy Kaufman has just given up, I guess, when it comes to this. And the official tweet says that Library Inc. is winding down. The library network will not be affected. Odysee and other assets will undergo a legal process to satisfy debts, but Odysee has a bright future ahead. Thank you to everyone who fought with us for online freedom. A final goodbye post is in the first reply. So, of course, they lost to the SEC, so it's been a long time coming when it comes to winding down. However, there was still some hope that maybe, they could rescue Library Inc., or maybe give the assets to the Library Foundation. However, those hopes may no longer, there may no longer be hope for that. However, hopefully Odysee can still continue doing what they're doing. I mean, with the other crypto projects that I forget the name, but the other crypto project that Odysee has been doing stuff with, because they've been financing Odysee. They might be moving away from Library as well, but of course, we'll just have to wait and see. But as a board member, Piers, a board member of the Library Foundation, what are your thoughts?
Exactly.
Okay, those are your thoughts. What are your thoughts, Farmer Joe?
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Like you said, the library network itself, theoretically, it can stay going. Considering the amount of overhead it takes to keep the damn thing running, that's iffy.
Yeah.
It just is. Especially if Odysee quits using LBC and library is a back end on it. So.
Yeah, that's my thoughts as well. Because, if there's not really any organization behind it, hub servers and, wallet servers and all that stuff will have to be up, and somebody else will have to host it, and somebody else will have to host the content. So, overall, it's not good news, but we'll just have to see where it goes. Maybe there'll be people in the community that will step up to the plate. Maybe the Foundation will step up to the plate, but yeah. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's the thing. Now, with them completely winding down, that may get some people involved that were otherwise just waiting for Library Inc. to completely go away. So
yeah,
there's a possibility.
But yeah,
it is what it is. Fucking.
Yeah.
The idea is that the Foundation will take on some of the tasks from Library Inc. now.
Yes. Whether
try to get some sort of organized co-development.
The real question is, do the Foundation actually have the resources for that? Because, taking on Library Inc.'s responsibilities. The Foundation is just a volunteer-based organization, so, and not with that many, I don't imagine there's really that many resources going around, is there? So, yeah.
No.
So, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Hope the Foundation can, continue on the Library Inc., what Library Inc. did with the desktop app and stuff. Yeah. What do you...
Definitely things like we should prioritize doing better documentation.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could fix some of Library Inc.'s mistakes, potentially. That
do
would be
a
good.
rebuild of the library tech website.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a mess of a website.
It still is.
Yes, well, it still is. Yes, it's still online, I think.
Yeah.
Let's pull it up here.
It was offline for a while because they forgot to pay the bill.
Yes, but anyway, but here
it will go soon.
Here it is on stream. View it in its glory until it goes away. library.com is also still up. But yeah.
I mean, the resources to run those websites are very minimal, so...
Yeah, so, yeah, it's not really much to be hosting, but yeah.
I temporarily set up the library tech website whilst it was down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kinda easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so adding the last...
Who ends up buying up all the assets. So, how that gets split up.
So I'm going to add a new story to the notes.
What did you say, Josh?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I said it all depends on who buys up Library Inc.'s assets.
Yeah.
How everything goes on that.
Yeah. But yeah, so the last story that I wanted to cover, which is one that you brought up, Piggis. So I guess you can cover this one if you want to, or, if there's anything to actually say about it. But the Library Foundation board election is coming up. Well, according to you. So, I guess so.
I mean, it's not technically official, but yeah, it will happen soon.
Oh, so should I not be announcing this on the 5th?
You can do that, but yeah, it's not going to happen right now.
Not going to happen right now. But would you like to say anything about this future board election that may happen at some point?
We don't really have any information about specifics yet.
Yeah. Well, the last board election, you were elected. So, cool. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Do you have anything to add, Farmer Josh?
Not really.
You're not standing for election, are you, Farmer Josh?
I don't even know if I'm eligible or not.
What wouldn't make you...
Why wouldn't you be?
Nope. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Check out the Discord server. Check out my website if you want to. But if you want to check out the Discord server, go to sandrolinux.com/discord, or for my regular website, just sandrolinux.com. You can also check out the .net domain. Sometimes there's stuff on there, so you can always check that out. It usually just redirects to .com, but I'm probably going to chuck some stuff up on there, so you can check it out if you want to. Just me testing out some stuff. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching once again, and see you guys next week. I say goodbye.
Later, taters.
Goodbye.
And